Right. Hello and welcome to Wednesdays with Willa. I am your host, Willa White, and this is my weekly podcast show that airs on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern on my Facebook page, Willa White Medium. It also goes out on my YouTube channel and the Lily Dale Assembly Facebook page as well. So you've got lots of places that you can tune in and watch the replay. If you're not able to join us live, you can certainly watch it later. A lot of people tell me that they binge watch the show, and you can enjoy that treasure trove of past shows because this is year 9 of episodes of Wednesdays with Willa. I encourage you to look at the YouTube channel because that's where things are storing really beautifully. Facebook dumps live videos after 30 days. They changed how they were doing things. So check it out on the YouTube channel. I'll also encourage you to take a look at the Lilydale Assembly .org website. They're getting a lot of the summer programming set, so you'll be able to start registering for classes and workshops here soon for the 2026 summer season. And that'll be a real joy. Those of you who are interested in my online classes, please visit my website, willawhite.com. I've got a lot of things that roll out in January, along with some video instant viewing classes for February. So a lot of great things to look forward to. I'd like to welcome back on the show, Joe Shiel. Hello, Joe. How you
Hi,
doing?
Willa. Thank you so much for having me again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
Um,
wonderful.
Joseph Shiel is a spirit artist and a medium, and he's been a medium for many, many years. And it's just great to have him back on the show to share his spirit art with us. We're focusing today on spiritual artistry, and Joe's going to tell us how that differs from the spirit art that he tends to do. Look back at the archive videos of the show. When you go to the YouTube channel for Willa White, you can type in Joseph Shiel and you'll see the past shows and his examples of his spirit art, his mediumship readings that he's done with spirit art, showing the faces of those who have passed. But spiritual artistry is a different pathway. So let's jump right into it.
Yeah, thank you very much, Willa. Thanks for having me. Yeah, in the past we've talked about spirit art or spirit portraits, which is drawing the spirit you're seeing in your mind or you're achieving somehow through your senses to draw when you're doing your readings. And so it's a really an added amount of evidence to the actual reading, which is very, very important that we have as much evidence as possible so we know who we're talking to and we know the presence of that spirit within the reaches of us right there, the client, ourselves, and anyone else, family that might be with us, and so they can experience uh, kind of painting them back to life, if you will. But they're right there, and that's what the important part is that we're sensing them because we've allowed them to. They allow them to use us as the instrument of peace, and really we're the in between. And what we do is just let them be there and let them come to us. And then once we perceive them, we use a little bit of skill or technique or I would say talent to just draw the picture the best we can as fast as we can because readings are short and we don't have a lot of time, and so I can't. The frustrating part about it is I can't spend a lot of time really perfecting the picture, where I would with an oil painting or something like that. So but spiritual artistry is something that I decided that I would offer many years ago. I started it. I taught a class at Omega, and what it was about finding our inspiration and finding those masters that inspire us and that type of thing from the other side, and that we would kind of find a way in which to bring ourselves to understand ourselves better. It's morphed over time because I felt like that was a little bit much, and that I wasn't really finding the people that really had those dreams, those pictures in their heads, those that music in their head, that poetry, and they were just so bogged down with life, so busy or distracted by everything from the 6 o'clock news to the morning paper or whatever the case may be, the morning Google messages, that everybody was unable to kind of spend a little time with themselves and get to know themselves. And what I tell my students all the time is, especially the medium students, is if you know yourself completely, then you immediately know who you're not, which means you're understanding those people on the other side much, much clearer. Well, when we get to know us, we get to feel a much more spiritual connection, a much more, I want to say, almost a place of holiness, a place of sincerity within ourselves. We see everything that we might have put aside or buried in our life. So it can be quite healing from trauma or from other issues of our life from childhood, and bringing things up the way we feel them, the way we move through them. We see with more than just our eyes. We see with who we are. We see with everything we are. We're a ball of energy. We're spirit within a real explosion of energy in this world. And if we can be that explosion, we can be that influence upon others, then we bring either the positivity or the negativity along with us. And this is the fact, find the actual beauty of that art within us, no matter what it might be, the dance, the instrument we play, the music that we listen to, just dancing around the kitchen and finding expression in how we do things and how we move things. When we begin to do that, we begin to find ourselves completely, and we start to like ourselves, love ourselves. And I know for a lot of mediums, we start off feeling pretty weird. I mean, you got to admit it. It's like what's happening to me. I know I can remember back in like junior high school, or even as a kid, thinking I'm different and I'm afraid. And so a lot of fears that come along with that, a lot of social, kind of awkwardness, if you will. And you can see today where the savants and people with beautiful understanding of mathematics, of music, and they're just beautiful, wonderful young people. But imagine them like moving along in society like a normal kid, if you will. And it's not easy. Well, even the normal kids have the problem. They have the problem of feeling different or trying to fit in and trying to find where do they go, and why are they here? What's the importance of their life? Why were they born? And I'm so grateful that everyone was born, because what it means is that we are in a collective that comes together and begins to bounce and off of each other. Sometimes we clash and crash, but we end up becoming more intelligent and evolving to the point where we can find peace, and that we can be the instrument of peace, not only for ourselves, but everyone around us, because our energy begins to touch upon others, even those aggravated or thinking they're all that in a cup of tea. We can level the playing field and just say, okay, why don't we just have that love between us? And what this class really about is that the spirit artistry that I'm working on now is really about finding the love within you, and championing the fact that that is what's most important, and that's what really can carry the day, if you will. So spirit artistry is really a kind of living in the inspiration, and becoming the creator. And what do I mean by that? It's a co-creation with those on the other side. It's a co-creation with a power greater than ourselves, a God of our understanding. It's a co-creation with that inspired or in spirit movement within ourselves when things come forward, the words of a beautiful poem, what I want to say back in a conversation, all these things when we want to do a talk at a church or a function of some sort, and we want to be inspired. We want to be able to just freely go, but we almost have to get all the blockades out of the way and become free within ourselves. And that's what's most important. And that's what this is about. It's about all these different techniques of opening up, whether it be meditation, whether it be a practice, whether it be little hints of how to just calm one down, whether it's breath work. All these things are involved. So when you start to find what works for you, then it starts to open up these pathways, and the synapses come together. All of a sudden, our brain is exploding with color and movement and shape and forms and symbols. And a symbol can speak 1,000 words. It can speak a lifetime of movement. And some of us carry symbols all our lives. I carry the symbol of an eagle. All my life as eagles have been important, and seagulls. Those two things have been like huge to me. And I watch seagulls by the hour. sitting on my boat, just looking up and watching their movement. And I learned from nature. I learned what it is to care about another. A seagull will take a very heavy shell, fly up thousands of feet, and drop it down on the rock, knowing full well it's not going to get there in time to get the meat, but it feeds the others, the younger, the more weaker, and that way, kind of continuing the evolution of the species, but also the beauty of that, the beauty of just giving of oneself, sacrificing the heavy work so that others can get along. We too, as human beings, need to learn these things. Even now, we're seeing that in the world. We need to learn to love each other, to care about each other, and to see how it makes us even better, even closer to the creation, if you will, closer to the inspired, closer to our spirit by reaching out and helping others, not hurting others. And that means that we find a way to create things that bring us together, create things that bring not only our own sense of self and sense of well-being and healing, but also a sense of connection with the others, soul to soul, mind to mind, heart to heart, where we feel immersed and we feel almost an intimacy of conversation and intimacy of, oh, you're in this too. You're walking this planet too. And we're here at the same time for some reason. And can't we just care about each other? And maybe I can inspire you by showing you this piece of art, or showing you, telling you about the story I'm writing, or telling you about the poem that came to me last night in the middle of the night. It's amazing how alive you can feel if you allow the spirituality and the artistry within you to come to the surface. You begin to see the world in a fullness. It's no longer I'm stuck in this alley or I'm stuck in that alley. It's no longer I'm compartmentalized in my pain or I'm compartmentalized in my focus at my job, in my cubicle, but I actually have freedom. I actually have possibilities and opportunities across the horizon, and I can really reach out and say, wow, I feel alive. I feel the possibilities of anything. I can do anything. Remember being told that as a kid, oh, you're going to know anything. And every one of us, I'm sure, just said, yeah, right. And maybe a few people got it, but I can remember being told that you can do anything. And I'm thinking, well, I'm kind of slow on the football field and I don't know if I can do anything. And you start beating yourself up. Well, it's art and artistry and expression of all kinds. I've tried all kinds of things, from clay sculptures to steel and metal sculptures um, to woodworking to crafts, to all these things that kind of give me a chance to see, how does that feel to me? How do I ingrain myself in the world? How do I fit in? Because of a lot of us, especially mediums and healers, we feel odd sometimes. We grew up that way. We feel like we could see the world from a different perspective or a different paradigm. And it's like, how come everybody else kind of gets this, but I don't, I'm feeling more passionate about it, or my tears are coming up and I feel the pain as I look at somebody else's pain and taking it on so heavily. How can I step aside and kind of paint that or word that in a way that will help heal people? You've heard many times at uh, you know, um, a person's funeral or memory, where somebody has written a poem because they moved within that moment. They never wrote a poem before in their life, but because of the passing, because of the ripping away of the body, they they don't know where to find them. And they automatically reach for something, anything, and all of a sudden break through the walls of, oh, I've got to be this way and I've got to look this way and I got to be like that. And, I can't be odd and I can't be different. And I have to be, go with the flow, you know? And I see this whole go with the flow movement, and I've heard a lot about it, and I've people have written about it, and I understand where they're coming from. Okay, But I just think going with the flow is like the worst thing going. Because if you go with the flow, you kind of go down the river with everybody else. You hit your head against a rock, you become dizzy, and you become a sheep. I'm going to follow this guy or I'm going to follow that guy. It's eclectically reach. There's so much beauty in everybody. One of the biggest places I get inspiration is my students. They all come from different walks of life. They all come from different tragedies or different places where they've been. Their life is not a waste, no matter how bad it's been or how good it's been. Nothing whatsoever in their life has been wasted. It all meaningful. It all helps to teach each and every one of us a little something more about courage, a little something more about honesty, a little something more about how it is to get past those pains and anguishes and guilts of the past and move forward and become something more beautiful in the world, something more positive in the world. And boy, do we need it, right? So I thought this was a time to bring this out and really start to talk about the ways in which we can open up, the ways in which we can really become light and be the light in a very dark place sometimes. And it's almost like new birth, you know? When a baby's born, it's so innocent. Okay, there's the crying and there's the bottle and there's the diaper changing. I just came back from doing that with my two little grandsons, a lot of diaper changing and things. And it's like, you know, I'm not exactly the quickest or fastest with that, I'll tell you. And yeah, messy. But
It's not
anyway,
a competition.
that's not a competition. Yeah, exactly. But I can compete with myself. I can try to get a little better. I can try to get those Pampers on just a little right, tighter, a little better. But anyway, um, we're constantly looking at perfecting ourselves. Why? We're not really looking out here to perfect ourselves. What we're really doing is looking for the perfection within us, that God within us, that Creator within us, that connection to everything that makes things good, that makes things beautiful, that makes things sing. And so I look for that song within me. I look for that poetry within me every day and every moment of the day. A constant contact with that higher source, a constant contact with what is happening right here in the now. Never mind what happened yesterday. That's all the tools in which to use. But right now, what am I going to do with it? How can I turn the pain of yesterday or the tragedy of yesterday or the trauma of childhood into something beautiful right now to help the next kid to maybe get it sooner? To maybe understand this freedom from this bondage of self, this bondage of ouch, okay. So anyway, that's a little bit about what's going on. I know
About what's
that.
going on with you. No, spiritual artistry is about creation
Mm-hmm.
and being in that mode of the self-discovery and kind of courageously allowing yourself the power of the page is what I call it.
Yeah,
The power of the page, be it is the drawing pad or the canvas being the page, but there's something that happens when you're in that creationary force, like you're explaining. There's this bridge between your soul and the seen and the unseen world that you're creating that union within yourself. It's not so much about connection with spirit loved ones like we do in
right.
mediumship. This is more on the lines of inspired art, just to clarify for our viewers today,
Yeah,
right? It's more along those lines of that, like you said, birth of ideas and taking time to really be in that inspirational mind.
right. The
Yeah,
focus of a spirit portrait is to achieve evidence, to see the person, to see the essence of the person in the drawing of them, trying to put them together. So it's a very specific kind of focus, if you will, that the medium has to have. And they have to not only be open, but focusing on what they're getting exactly that has to do with that particular person, their life and their presence and their essence in this world as
right.
we put them together, as we come together. But beyond that, the spiritual artistry is more about coming together with me. How do I express myself? How do I dance in life? How do I sing in life? How do I play? And it is a lot about playing. It's about that innocence that we brought into this world was one of discovery. We wake our eyes up and go, wow, I'm born. What the heck is this place? Who are those people? And all of a sudden we find the deja vu's, like I've been here before, like this. We see the kind of string of family or familiarity in it, and we find ourselves feeling comfortable that we can find our role, find our space, find our tribe, if you will. And we feel kind of connected, and we feel freedom, and things will change. We also become much more easily adapt to change. We can move forward. We can still keep our loyalties to people, but we can discover new. We don't have to stay in one place or feel stuck or feel trapped or feel imprisoned by our own life. We're free. And that freedom is something that just brings out new color and new imagery and new songs, if you will. And that's what's important. This is a program that's not just for mediums. Mediums certainly can benefit from it because it helps open their imagination so that they can feel deeper. They can feel more acutely, more, the tingles are a little sharper, a little stronger. And so the more they open up, the more they become an instrument that knows its own tuning. And I know how I'm being played, if you will, by the spirit world. But, you know, healers are the same thing. Imagine doing Reiki or doing a healing modality and actually feeling what's going on, seeing the story of somebody's life in your mind. So you know why the pain is there. You know what the stress was that brought it. You know the hardship or the trauma that's deeply ingrained in their muscles and their bones and their organs, if you will. The body carries a lot of that, and we can feel it and see it. We see imagery of it. We might see a symbol of it, and a symbol that means something to us. And it's always about what it's meaning to us. It's not the symbol for someone else. It's the symbol we use in order to describe what we're feeling around somebody else, which is really kind of cool.
I have a question for you. Have you ever read the children's book, Harold and the Purple Crayon?
No, no.
So I think you should look at Harold and the
Okay.
Purple Crayon. And
Okay.
it's this little boy, and his imagination is vast, and it's simple with just his purple crayon. All of a sudden, he makes things happen all around him. So it's about being able to lasso that moon,
Mhm.
go on the rocket ship. Whatever, if he gets into peril, he just draws
Yep.
the way out of it. And so there's this pathway of using imagination and interacting with the world through the art of
Right.
creation. And I really think you'd resonate very strongly. It's a children's book.
It sounds like my life.
It sounds like you could be Harold. And
No,
he draw at one
mean,
point he draws a
that's
boat,
what life
you
as a
know.
child for me was, one of imagination, of being in those
Yeah.
special places, of talking to people that weren't there according to other people, but to me they were
Yeah.
very much there. And that kind of openness to the alternative world, the unseen world that we talk about so much as mediums, is an unseen world to each and every one of us. None of us are left out. What happens is we're distracted. What happens is we're bogged down. What happens is we're trapped within a societal idea of what we should be to look normal and be okay. And I talk about this being a little crazy. Okay, so what's wrong with a little crazy? You know, every actor you have ever known that's a good actor is a little crazy. They would have to be, in order to take on the character, to take on whether it be the villain or the hero. They've got to be able to understand the feelings, emotions, and uniqueness of that character that may not be a real character but written in a book. So I have to bring all the aspects of this character, the strange, other being and kind of put it into my movements or my acting, another way of expressing ourselves, of course. And, I think there's so many different types of people that can benefit from this, whether it be counselors or whether it be a therapist, whether, we have a thing called art therapy.
Sure.
And imagine an art therapist who really can not only see what's happening with a child or an adult in that therapy, but basically kind of even bring it further and for themselves and to grow it more eclectically across the map. What about living life to its fullest? We've often heard that. Let's live life to the fullest. Well, what does that mean? I got to get a house. I got to get a boat. I got to get a car. I got to have 2.3 kids, and I've got to be able to, I got to be happily married the rest of my life. Well, let's face it, that's not always the case. Life is not easy. Life can be hard. Life can be crazy all over the map. And if we're trying to stay on one path while everything else is hitting us without a release valve, without an understanding of the bigger picture, we don't get back on our path. We end up in pain. And, I call pain God's guardrails. It's kind of like, ouch, I got to get back to
Mm-hmm.
centering myself on my spirit, not on my proving myself to others. I'm getting older, and Willa knows this because she's watched me get old over the years. In the past 30 years, she's getting older. He's actually getting bigger. No, and he's getting a lot balder. But anyway, as I get there, it's like I also get this attitude of like, what was I so worried about? Why was I so uptight about some things? And when you become my age, it's like, screw it. I want to be alive and well. I want to feel the best of life. And it doesn't matter the thing going around me. Yeah, I can speak my mind about things I don't agree with. I can debate with the best of them, but I'm not going to do it in a way that tears down people. I'm going to encourage people to live and live well. And that's what spiritual artistry is all about. It's finding a way within me to live and live well in the energies around me, those auras that encompass this this temporary body and this permanent soul, and kind of carry me and say, wow, there's so much more freedom to that. You know, I'm not afraid of going to the other side, whenever that might be. What I'm afraid of is losing time here. And that's what mediumship is about. That it's not about, that let's talk about the dead. It's like, oh my God, it's not about that.
And
It's
so
about
they're still
getting
living.
that life is continuous. So therefore we are living a life. Why not do it to the highest and best? Why are we waiting for the box? I mean, let's go, so
Let's
that's what
go.
it's about.
Well, I know you have some examples to share with us about spiritual artistry. So
Oh,
this would probably be a great time to lean into that. And you
okay.
can share the
I'll
screen.
just switch the camera here. You don't
Yeah, great.
and you'll see some things here. Hold on. I can, paint a traditional painting and just and it's just a simple, it's not a one of my detailed, like really fine art paintings where I'm anguishing over every reality, but it's dreamlike. And so I can see that beach, I can see that sky, I can see the movement. You remember when you're a kid laying down and watching the clouds and like, oh, there's an elephant, and that, and making things, letting the mind bring things together. And so with a quick little 6x6 painting, I can just get a feeling of I can breathe. I'm at peace. I can walk this beach. I can pick up sea glass and shells. I can smell the woods and smell the sea and feel the sky and feel the wind against my face and the salt and on my skin, and I feel freedom. Okay. And that's just something simple. And that might be even too much detail for somebody to, I can't draw like that. Well, yes, you can if you let yourself be inspired to do it. And then I brought one that Robin, who passed away 9 years ago, did 300. She did a book, and then she painted 53 paintings while she was in hospice. And each one was to talk about herself. And this is called The Woman in the Red Hat. So very simple, but she would sit in front of the lake and paint these paintings and anguish over them. But what she was trying to do is, if you see the expression, it's not a picture of her, but it's how she felt. It's that expression of, I'm going to die. What now? What's it going to mean?
Yeah.
And so she wrote a whole book about what it is to move through our spirit and accept our movement, accept the changes, if you will. And so she put it in the red hat, and the redness of that is symbolic. She uses color, line, form, texture in order to get it done. So just simple thing like that. She never thought she was a very good artist till she started doing this, and I was like, oh my God, look at this. Look what's coming. This is something I'm working on right now for somebody out in California, and it's an orograph. So I'm working on it. It'll get darker, but you'll see the spirit comes through. People are in here. Events of life, symbolism of life. The tree becomes the guitar becomes the woman. The these are symbols of the dolphin, the swan, the elephant is right here. And I've done a lot of these over the years, and these are a soul journey of the person I'm reading for. Look at the garlic right here, the garlic clove. It's almost and right over a strawberry. What does that mean? What does it mean to have the garlic clove, which is like keep the evil away, and the strawberry, which is like the sweetness of life itself and the heart of hearts? And so we've got all of this moving and coming so that this person's whole life is coming together. Now, I haven't finished this part yet. And one of the reasons is I'll sit with this woman again and try to finish it. But what I'm getting is what I'm getting by being with another soul, soul to soul, caring about one another, loving one another to the depths, being able to give of ourselves for others, to see the beauty around them and the beauty within them. And it all comes together. And so there's so much here of this bridge to the other side, of this sunset of life, of the beauty of what is to come. And this woman will find this to be quite interesting when we come together, because it'll be even more full and there'll be more to go on. Um, I don't have enough room on the camera to bring sculptures in and everything else, but there are so many things we can do that are not necessarily detailed, and those are almost more cartoon-like than some of my pictures or some of my portrait paintings and things like that. But I'm constantly trying to get better at it. And what does that do? It keeps me in the mix. It keeps me going. It keeps me alive and well and feeling like, yeah, these are things I can leave behind, but these are things that move me forward. It's almost like fuel to the engine of life itself, of joy. And I think it's important for each and every one of us to reach for our joy. Part of our life comes the hardships of kind of finding our joy, and we trip over ourselves. We hit the wall. We hit those guardrails. We fall down, and then we learn that fortitude is really being able to say, wait a minute, there's more to this. There's a better life. I don't have to end my life at this point. I can change. I can move forward. I can find something. One of the greatest things that was ever said to me in my life, back when my life was pretty hard at one time, I had, had really ruined it in many, many ways. And that was part of this whole trying to find out who you are, kind of thing. And somebody said to me, why would you want to destroy somebody you don't even know? You know? And that told me that I was stuck in thinking I knew myself. I was stuck in this place of thinking I know everything about me, and boy, am I this, that, and the other thing, instead of saying, what could I be? What can I be? And then allowing that inspiration, allowing spirit, allowing that higher power to step in and carry me forward. And that's kept me going for a long, long time. My life has been extraordinary for the last 35 years. I'm 70. So half my life was finding it, and the other half has been just evolving. Did I make mistakes? Did I crash and burn sometimes? Yeah, but I'm still kicking. And so I think everybody that gets involved with spirit artistry, young and old, can find a way to bring art into their life. It is well known throughout history that, cities that don't have art and music die. They go stale, they go strange, they go stuck, they go militaristic, and instead of having the freedom and expression of emotions and feelings and living. And so I think that if we can't, if we're even in a place where we can't create as much, I've been a counselor for guys in prison, Attica and other places, and over the years. And one of the things is that there's restrictions. They only have an hour a week to go to the art room, or they might not get that at all because they're in solitary or whatever the case may be. And we talk about rehabilitating, we talk about finding, well, they've certainly earned their confinement away from society because they were dangerous. So don't get me wrong, but their souls too, stuck in this scenario, these mistakes that they made when they were 18, 23, whatever the case may be. And that outlet begins to have a freedom of the entire universe. They're no longer stuck by those walls, if you will. They can be an insight and a light for those around them, those that are going to get out again, to say, go and live your life and live it well. Go do something good for the world instead of the nasty thing you did or the horrible thing you did or whatever, or the mistake you made. Go live differently. And each and every one of us have that choice. We have a freedom. We have free will. We can make a difference. And sometimes it's just opening up that huge lens, stepping back and getting the full picture so that we have everything in our view. And then we can put the pieces together and come together and say, this is what makes me alive and feel like my purpose, my wanting, my place in life. And this is what I can feel come back to me. I don't have to sit and wait for everybody to say, oh, that's a nice painting, Joe. I don't have to sit. I know what it is because it moved my heart. And I just hope that it moves others. And some it does. And some people just walk by and go, what the hell's that?
Which brings me to a question. In terms of spiritual artistry, and a big part of that's role is to bring beauty and compassion and wisdom, right?
Mm-hmm.
It can be a place where there's a discovery of letting go of past versions of self and moving into new versions of self. So when we talk about art tends to be very much in the eye of the beholder, but also in the eye of the creator.
Right.
And I guess where would you say the importance or stressing the importance of making things that are beautiful would be? Because sometimes people are going through their angst. Modern art especially has always had a lot of that kind of angst to it, rather than enjoying the classical form, or, those kinds of understandings and symbols. Where would you place yourself on that spectrum?
Some of my fine art has been described as moody, you know, and dark, if you will. Some of my ocean pictures are quite sad, if you will. Like they have all the emotions, but we're human beings, and we're going to experience the full gamut, the full rainbow of emotions and feelings and things, and we should. What a life that's just down, like everything's taken care of for me, and I'm just cushy and everything's fine, and I never see any bad stuff, and I never saw a horror movie in my life. I never did this. It's like you how can you know the light without knowing the darkness? It's like it's those dynamics, it's that yin and yang of life. And
I think it's
so
about knowing the dark but not living there.
it's making a choice, and
Yeah.
it's making a choice to the
Yeah.
highest self, which is of light.
Okay.
See, because in the darkness, in the blackness, if you just take the color black, okay, then every color is in that color. But when you point one point of light in that darkness, all of a sudden the focus comes there, and then you begin to see the dynamics of everything, and it comes together in a huge way. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to switch the camera again just for a second. Maybe I can show you something. Hold on. Okay, so here we have this pad. Okay, I just got to get this to focus here. Okay, good. Um, and say that we have trying to find a dark enough pencil. Here we go. So I'm going to say to people, what do you see? And some people go, oh, pad of paper, and some people go say, I see a maybe a polar bear in a snowstorm or something, like it's nothing there. But then I don't see much of anything. And then I go like this. I say, now what do you see? Because of the one dot, everything's changed. This no longer is this clean piece of paper. It's no longer, all of a sudden, it becomes form. All of a sudden, becomes a mystery. And don't we live in the mystery? We live in the mystery of knowing where are we going? Why are we here? We live in mystery all the time. We live in, we can go to church on Sunday, and what are we discussing? We're discussing not only principles, but we're discussing the mysteries. And all of a sudden, I could go like this. Now, what do I have? Well, I have two fields like that, but maybe I go like this. Now I've got something totally different. And now maybe I have a building, the side of a building, or now maybe I have this, the other side of the building, or maybe I have this. Now what do I have? Well, I have four fields, or I have a window, or I have a cross, or I have possibilities, quadrants. Now I'm playing Foursquare with my friends out on the playground. Now things are coming together, and more meaning, more and more substance, more and more life comes to being. And it doesn't have to be um, complicated. It just has to be expressed. We don't just paint or draw or write about specific items. I could say, okay, let's talk about this medal that I got from the Knights of Columbus here. Let's talk about how that was formed or whatever. Or I could say, paint your anger. And all of a sudden, what is that? How can I express what's going on with me and my resentment, my anger, and my these things that feel trapped to me, that keep me stuck, that don't feel free. They feel like I'm tied down. I'm wrenched. I'm afraid. You know, spiritual artistry is about not being afraid.
There you go.
Spiritual artistry is about the freedom of love itself, of loving life, of loving everyone that I meet. And I don't care what they're about. You know, I tell my students, you got to love them anyway. You sit with a client, you may not like them. They may be quite nasty right now because they're in pain, or because they're going through grief, or because they've just always been that way. That's just who they are. They've got a nasty way about them. They've got an arrogant, pompous, attitude towards life. You got to love them anyway. Because somewhere underneath all those masks and all that pain and all that training, there's a soul that's free, a soul that wants to be free. So why can't we be the inspiration or the catalyst, the spark of beauty in their life to say, you know what? They look happier than I do. Maybe I don't have to be miserable anymore. Yeah, kind of cool. You know, we can be the power of example to others. The more art we put in our lives, the more music, the more dance, the more theater, the more wonderment, the more expression, writing, poetry, sound, healing, the more we put in our life, the more we grow, the more we understand ourselves, the more life we feel, and the more we learn to love ourselves and love what we've been given, which is an opportunity for a few years to be here. This is a place to work it out. This is a place to have the fun. This is the workshop. This is the art gallery. This is the studio. This is the court on which to play the game of life and really become the fullness in yourself. And that's just what happens when we start to feel the creative self move forward. And it only takes a dot, it only takes just one little thing to move in a direction that is of peace, of compassion, of love, love for each other, love for this world, a fortitude of keeping on no matter what. You know, sometimes when we're doing art, I lived in Southeast Asia when I was 16, and I stayed in a monastery for a while, and it was one of those beautiful, you know, Watts, the old temples, and a lot of the monks would work on the temple itself, on the sculptures, the Buddhas themselves, and painstakingly over and over again, doing the same thing over and over again, which meant as I watched them, the discipline of that, finding the repetitive discipline of that was what brought them to a higher mind, a higher understanding of them, an internal journey of knowing themselves. Because over and over again, they do the same thing over and over again. And you could see the contemplative prayer that was going on within the movement, you know, as as the Catholics have rosary beads to kind of things, as the Buddha have beads to follow one at a time, prayer by prayer, statement by statement, affirmation by affirmation, and it's a discipline. And why is it? It's to kind of not only get it, not only have the freedom, but to hold on to it,
Mm-hmm.
to have it become second nature. And
Yes.
one of the things I tell my medium students is when you're learning the mechanics of mediumship, what are you learning? You're learning to do something over and over again so it becomes second nature. It's not something you want to think about during the reading. It's something that
Exactly.
becomes part of you. It's automatic. And it takes years sometimes to create that or to achieve that. And that means practice, practice, practice. I may never do the same painting twice. I might draw a lighthouse 100 times so that I know when I go to paint it, I know exactly what it looks like and exactly where I need to be. But I'm not drawing those 100 pictures to do the final drawing. I'm drawing those because every time I do it, I'm experiencing the difficulties, the obstacles, the perception within my own mind, my eye to hand coordination. How am I going to bring this? How can I make it better? How can I shade it? How can I bring it to life? How can I make it look real? How
Mm-hmm.
can I emulate the world, but also bring through this lighthouse, this picture of mine, the greatness or the beauty I see in this lighthouse, where other people might drive by and go, "Oh, that's nice," and that's it. Where I want to see, what was it like to be the mason that pointed between those bricks? What was it like to be the man, the electrician that put that light together, that people that made the prisms that spew that light out over the ocean? What was it like to be part of this project that became one single point in the world for navigation? What was it like to be part of this particular place at that time? And when I start to do that, I go deeper to appreciation And that's what spiritual artistry is about. It's not only appreciating art, and it's not about the art that's on the wall. It's about the art that's inside me. It's about the art that's inside you. It's about it's about the art. It's about the soul that we share. That's where the beauty is. That's not the horror. I can let me take this to the extreme. There are gunsmiths. You may have been in a gun shop or something and seen the artistry of somebody making the mechanics to forming the metal, to forming the wood, to carving the wood, to getting the exactness of the engineering of a gun. Okay. And it's beautiful. It's like there's discipline to that. There's artistry to that. There's there's inspiration to that. But what for? We can use anything to hurt people. We can use anything. We can use a painting to hurt somebody or to say something, to debate something. But where's that expression coming from? In spiritual artistry, we're saying to ourselves, where is all that anger pent up? Where is all that disdain pent up? It is about healing the ugliness of this world and living in the light of the next, even now.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's about realizing that we contain within ourselves a spiritual beacon, a divine spark that leads us
That's right.
to that which is truth with a capital T.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. When I
So,
first walked into Lilydale many, many years ago, and I had the cross around my neck, the rosary beads were in my pocket. I was like, looking around like this, what the hell is this? Yeah, and that kind of was my attitude because I was, that I'm going to get conned. There's, a bunch of crystal ball readers here. I had no idea what I was walking
no
into,
idea.
and
Yeah.
I was terrified. And yet I knew that there was things going on with me that I couldn't understand, and I was crying over every day. It was just so moving, and I was like, "What is this?" And then all of a sudden, I walked in, and I walked by the first woman. I don't remember who she was. I don't know, but I just walked by her by the post office, and I, I walked by her, and she said hello, and it was, it was the energy around her. It was the peace around her. She may not have been the prettiest woman in the world. She may not even been the nicest woman in the world, But what happened was she was calm. She was in a place of peace. And all of a sudden, I felt the peace. And I went, whoa, there's something happening. That's it, as the song says, there's something happening here. What it is, I'm not really clear. But it was that way of, oh my goodness, there's a peace, there's a peace in these streets, there's a peace here. There's struggle, there's pain, there's uh, disagreement, but there's this commonality of peace, peace,
Hmm.
peace.
Hmm.
And so we see these little Victorian cottages and the coffee shop that I used to like coming to life, and music in the air, and laughter and joy and lots of tears, but this spirit in the midst. And that's the beauty. That's what a place like Lilydale and the energy is all about, because it brings that spirit to the surface so that we not only see it, some of us, but we certainly feel it, and we go, okay, now there's something different. There's another possibility in life other than pain and arguing. there's there's something more that we can reach for. Even in our own humanness and frailties and mistakes, we can reach for something better, and that is love.
Hmm. Simple yet deep. Beautiful. Well, we really thank you for coming on the show today to talk about spiritual artistry and share some examples and your thoughts about that. I know you have the upcoming course for spiritual artistry. People want to know more about that. They can visit your website, which is
Yes, just
Joseph.
josephshield.com. That's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
beautiful, beautiful. So
SHIL.
Yeah, that'll be a great course for people who are wanting to go deeper into that experience of the art. And as you said, it's such an important and valuable thing to do, to set aside time in
Mhm.
ourselves and to have that interior experience come out onto the paper.
It'll be moving, it'll be fun, and bring what you may, where from whatever artistry you believe in, whether you're a teacher or a counselor, whatever you might do. All kinds of people enjoy it. I know when I did it at Omega, I had psychiatrists, I had things,
Sure. The
all
whole
kinds of
gamut.
people that like feeling their way in life. And it wasn't about mediumship. It was about connecting not only to the spirit world, but to each other as well, and just to this whole world of art. So thank you so much, Willa, for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Always a good time with Joseph Shiel. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today. And I encourage you to be with me next week. I believe my next show is Grief and Resilience. And I'll have Dr. Brenda Hawkins on to talk about that. I know it's a favorite when she comes on the show to give us some more in depth of the psychology behind things and how to build ourselves up in a positive way. So, really looking forward to that show. Please join me here next week, same time, same place on my Facebook page or YouTube channel. And just if people are wanting to do the online classes, you can still join the Living the Laws of Spirit class. And that is one that has a video option as well. But I'd love to have you attend the live 6 week series. All right, everyone. Thanks so much for your kind love, attention. Like, subscribe, follow, and share so we can keep bringing more wonderful Wednesdays with Willa shows to you. All right. Thanks, Joe. Bye bye, everyone.